My name is Frank Cassie. I'm the founder of Free Spirit Paranormal. Thanks for coming out to our first ever lecture here, I should say. As you see, this is the rest of the group. My wife in the back, she's going to be selling t-shirts. So if anybody wants to help support us, please feel free to buy a t-shirt. I will be throwing that out there every now and then. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give, we'd like to give one t-shirt away. So listen to everything I say. I'm going to ask a question by the end of the night. Whoever gets it right gets a free t-shirt. Okay? It's a $10 value, by the way. Did I mention it? Yes? No? Okay. So what we'd like to do first, we're going to show a little short video. We haven't shown this in a while, so a lot of members who aren't here. It's kind of something funny, kind of cute, yeah, kind of campy, you might want to say. So I'll show that first. Then we're going to open up with little questions here, horror-related questions. Not a lot, just a few. Then we're each going to get up. Somebody's going to give a little speech about different types of hauntings, evidence. As you can see, Kirk brought his toys tonight, so he's going to teach us how to play with his toys. Sue is going to go about debunking. Randy's going to talk about protection. I'm going to talk about psychic protection. Yes, psychic protection. Whoever said that, I heard that. Okay. And then we'll open up to question and answer. We'll tell you about, we've investigated the library twice. And we'll tell you about Barnes' experiences here, unfortunately. And I hate to say this, we do not have any hard evidence. No pictures, no EVPs, but we do have a few stories. So bear with us for a few minutes, and I hope you enjoy the film. There is no popcorn either. Alrighty.
Too bright.
There's no, I mean, you know why? I understand.
I saw the ghost again. Again? This happens every single night. Do something. Call someone. Who are you gonna call?
Take a guess. Yep.
I'll stop doing that. If you're in a confined room, if we're in this room and say the EMF was at 20, and we stayed in this room, yeah, we're going to get the shakes, we're going to get the sick feeling, our stomach's going to start turning. 5 is high. 5 is high? Unless you're hypersensitive. Talk to us, say this little red light, okay? When we're close to it, you can talk into it, and we can play it back later. And you can, hear any messages that you might want to tell someone, maybe a loved one. We can get that message to them. Red light in my hand, feel free to come close to the red light, or speak your name loudly near the red light. What was that? Alright. My ghost meter's pushing 4. This is right up in the bedroom. So there you go. Yeah. Must be the wire for the ceiling fan. It's all wrapped up around there. Right. I see
So what do you guys think? Emmy worthy? Come on. Oh, I know, I'm sorry. We're not really going to be staying on the screen. Oh, on the screen, I know. Couldn't figure out how to get it larger. I'm sorry. That's my bad. So, does anybody have any questions about the film? I will be signing autographs later. Pardon me?
Full screen.
Well, we tried, we couldn't figure it out. So what we're going to do, we're going to start a PowerPoint presentation. Christine's going to come up first, talk about types of hauntings. In between, I'll start throwing out some questions, little horror movie related things. This is Christine.
Hi everyone.
Wait a minute.
Until Frank dials up the power. Okay. So I'm going to be talking about the types of hauntings and the different spirits that would be in a particular haunting, because different hauntings could possibly have a different type of spirit. Before I start on that, I thought I'd talk about what are we looking for as a paranormal investigator? Well, we're looking for spirits, right? And so what's a spirit? Well, a lot of people believe that a spirit is the soul, and the soul is the immortal part of us that consists of our thoughts and our emotions, and that's actually can separate from our physical being. And so that piece of us either stays earthbound, like a ghost, or can go through the different realms, which would make them a spirit, because it can travel between both realms. While I was doing my research about spirits and hauntings, I found this really great scientific research that took place, and they actually. Are you changing my slides? There was a scientific. These scientists got together and they decided they wanted to figure out if the soul can be measured in any way. And what they did was they actually had people sign off on being weighed before they passed away, and then being weighed after they passed away. And they found out that each person weighed the same amount, 6 ounces, a difference in 6 ounces. And they concluded through their research that that was the soul part of the being that can travel through the different dimensions. I thought that was really interesting that they actually tried a scientific approach, and that's what we try to do. We're trying to find a scientific approach. So, the hauntings. The first haunting can go for. The first haunting that I'll talk about would be the traditional haunting. A traditional haunting has a lot of different kind of apparitions that could be in a traditional haunting. It's also called an intelligent haunting because the spirit or the soul can actually communicate with you through any of your 5 senses. So, is there 5 senses? So, this would be like a picture of maybe an apparition of the living. So that's what that person looked like back then, and they appear in the photo. That would be a traditional haunting, and that would be captured in that photo. Traditional haunting has lots of different ones, like a crisis apparition. That's an apparition that takes place usually 12 to 24 hours after someone passes away, and they want to come back to give you their loved one information. So that'd be considered a crisis apparition. There's apparitions of the dead, apparitions of the living, which I'll talk about that in a little bit. So you can go to the next slide. The next slide, this would be considered, this is the most common type of haunting that we come across. It would be a residual haunting. Residual haunting means energy gets emitted on the environment, and it plays over and over again like a tape recorder. And so this would be a common one, like people see the lady going down the stairs. But that energy can't communicate with you, so it's not intelligent. So it would be considered residual. And we come across that often in different places that we visit. Go next one. Okay, this is a poltergeist haunting, and if you've ever seen the movie Poltergeist, this is like the most controversial type of haunting because there's 2 different theories. One theory is that a child, an adolescent child, usually is going through a lot of emotions, and they don't realize that they're using psychokinesis to move objects in their house, so they're not even aware that they're doing it. The other theory is that there really is an entity or a spirit in the house, and it works in tandem with the child, and that's how we got that. That's how they had that movie Poltergeist with the little girl. It all moves through the little girl. Okay, this would be a demonic haunting, and that's the scariest kind of haunting, and I've yet to come. Does it look like a demon?
It's a bird.
Well, it looks.
It's actually a little closet.
Nice little girl. But some people would consider that like a demonic type of thing happening, and the reason why a demonic one's so frightening is because spirits that would be in a demonic haunting were thought never to be human, so that's why that makes it particularly scary. Okay, my favorite haunting. This, in case you, one of my favorite movies, Bill and Ted's. Have anyone ever seen this movie? Good movie, big much great. This has the best example of a doppelganger haunting. A doppelganger haunting is when your ghostly double appears. So, for instance, in Bill and Ted's, they appear to to themselves to give themselves information about a school project. But I actually I know someone who actually, his mom was really ill in intensive care with tubes down her throat, and he got a phone call from her saying goodbye, and she died like 2 hours later. That would be considered a doppelganger haunting, because your ghostly double of yourself appears to somebody else. So I could be right here talking, but I also could be home in Newtown Square where I live, helping my daughter, or giving her a message of some sort.
Yelling at her.
Yelling at her, we're usually doing that. Is there any other one? No? Oh, I just want to share one more, another haunting that's not up here would be a portal haunting. And a portal, as a lot of places, there's areas around the world where people say that they see spirits move back and forth through the realm, and it's usually in a portal haunting, and you would have apparitions from another dimension. So that could be like something scary, like an alien-looking thing. So a lot of people believe that that portal, that area, manifests energy back and forth. For instance, like when someone's, near-death experiences, people say they go down that tunnel. A lot of people liken that to a portal haunting, but in your near-death, you're only going, but then you come back. So that would be like a portal through life and death, and a portal also can be whenever, anywhere. Like in cemeteries are a very common place that you'll find a portal haunting. Any questions? Sure, go ahead.
Can you have a portal haunting in a church?
You can
What
have a
would
portal
you
haunting
see?
anywhere.
What would you see?
Well, usually theory is that there's like a mist. You'll actually see things coming out and going in the same spot. So in theory, yeah, it could happen in a church. Anyone else have a question? Not from anybody that. Okay. If you have any questions during, you can ask any one of us.
Yeah.
So equipment is going to be Kirk.
Yeah, but thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. So let me ask you a question. Who saw the movie Ghostbusters? Everybody in here should have their hands up. Let's try again. Who saw the movie Ghostbusters? Really? You never saw it?
Never seen that.
Leave. In the movie Ghostbusters, see, you're not going to get the answer and you're not getting a prize. What was the receptionist's name? Her first name. In the movie, not her real name.
I don't remember that.
Ah.
Oh, Melnix was the.
No, not Mrs. Anybody. All right. Does anybody remember what her real name was?
She's one of the 4 ladies in Georgia.
Yeah.
Was it Janine?
Very good. It was Janine.
Oh, is it
You get
Garofalo? Is that, was she?
a free spirit follow-up. Okay, next question. Let's try this one more time. It's not a Ghostbusters one, so you and back will be fine. The movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Who saw that? Oh, sure, that one he goes, yeah, I've seen that one.
Never seen it.
The original or the new one?
Ah,
there's so many.
here you go. This is where this ties into it. And it showed, first hand up, how many different remakes are there? Very good. 3. You got a flashlight.
I got a question.
Sure.
What's Texas Chainsaw Massacre got to do with Ghostbusters?
Nothing whatsoever. This is a way to get everybody involved in what we're doing. So relax everybody. Relaxes me too. Normally I'm walking around the place, but I can't because Mark be like this trying to follow me all the time. So all right. So we're gonna have Kirk. Kirk's gonna talk about equipment. He's got some of his toys here.
How many people watch Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures or any of the paranormal TV shows? Okay, occasionally. All right. On those shows, everybody's got some type of equipment. To do what we do, we don't need all the equipment that I have. Basically, you need a flashlight, digital voice recorder, and any type of camera. I just happen to have, since I like equipment, I happen to have a full spectrum camera which also sees in the dark, and that's what these 2 lights are. I go on investigations. Whenever we investigate, we always say flash if you're using a flash, because the light messes up your night vision. I don't have to say flash. A In fact, I like to take pictures of Frank in the dark, and he doesn't even know I'm taking pictures. So,
Gary?
That's scary.
yeah. Yeah, so basically you need your digital voice recorder, your flashlight, and your camera, and any camera will do. You can get a cheap throwaway camera, you can use your camera for your on your phone, you can even use a Polaroid camera if you still have one of those. And you are your best piece of equipment. If you're ever somewhere and all of a sudden you get a headache, or your stomach starts to hurt, or the hair on the back of your neck stands up, something paranormal could be going on. And then you can graduate to some of the other equipment, which is, this is a EMF detector. It's a basic EMF detector, and this one just picks up your EMF. What we're looking for is anything between 3 and 7 milligauss. That's how we read EMF. And again, since I like toys, these 3 millimeters, they're all EMF detectors, but they each have a different purpose. The REM Mel has a REM pod that's built into it, and what a REM pod is it picks up it gives off a magnetic field, and anything that breaks the magnetic field, it'll light up. It makes sound too. I don't have the sound turned on. The shadow detector, which is a same millimeter, but with a shadow detector on here, there's a light that you turn on. You set it flat like this. You set up a light, for instance, at the end of a hallway or in a room. We go out to a client's house and they say, this happens in the room. I can set that up, we can go investigate somewhere else, and that makes noises and sounds too. And then we have the ATDD, which senses the ambient temperature of the room. Spirits, the interesting thing about this is spirits can manipulate both the ATDD and the millimeter separate. There's 2 circuits in there. And I've been on investigations, and the temperature's going up, but the temperature on the screen hasn't. And all of us in the group have seen that, and they're always like, why, what does that do? Well, I found out later that there's 2 circuits in there and you can manipulate one or the other. I talked about the REM pod in the millimeter. This is the original REM pod, and it does the same thing, but as you break the magnetic field, the lights go on. I've had some success on some investigations. This is a laser grid, which you set up in a dark room. It works better in a bigger space, in this confined space. And what we're looking for is something that breaks the light, something that can move through the dots. They sell them in different colors. So you have a blue one, right?
Mhm.
Blue one, green, and red. Red's really good for really dark areas. Motion detectors, we can use, again, you set them up and you go away, and the motion detector goes off, and you come back, and usually we have, I don't have my trap camera, but you set up the trap camera and the motion detector goes off, and we get a picture, we get some type of evidence. And my personal favorite is the geophone, which was originally used for seismic activity, and you turn this on, sorry about that, you turn this on, and it picks up vibration. I can turn it down so I get a little bit of vibration. That's good for setting up in bedrooms. Sometimes people say, you know, my bed vibrates. You set that up while you're doing an EVP session. And then on a trigger object, which is another thing, we try to set these up and go away and investigate. And this also has sound to it, but it picks up, again, it's a magnetic field, an adjustment, and whoever or whatever tries to grab whatever we're trying to communicate with. That's just some of the equipment that we use. Eventually, we were talking about equipment tonight, and there's new things out on the market. They make a dog and a cat that you can use on investigations. They have a K2 meter built in, and stuff.
It's like a plush
Yeah.
thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
That little flare gun that pops in the bottom of the feather.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw that too. Yep. Yep. You can use that in your Apple or Android device. Is there any questions?
I was wondering, how often have you come across a place where there's smart ghosts where they seem not to appear when you're doing your diagnostics?
All the
Because I'm sure
time.
they're out there, like, I mean, they,
All the time. We can go on investigations, sit and investigate a place 3 or 4 hours and never have an equipment hit.
Mhm.
But we have personal experiences. It happens all the
oh
time.
yeah,
Or we cannot get equipment hit and get EVPs. So,
Or nothing at all.
or get nothing
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
What we do, one second, what we do is like going fishing. You know, you can go down to your lake where you catch fish all the time, and you might get one fish a couple of times you go, and then you get 5 fish. So.
I'm sure there's some pranksters out there, oh, they're coming, we're gonna
Yeah,
fool
absolutely.
everybody and.
What was your question?
You mentioned personal experiences. Growing up, or did you ever have personal experiences that got you involved and interested?
Not growing up so much. I've always been interested in the paranormal. There's a famous book out that was written about the area of Pennsylvania we live in called Ghosts of the Valley. There's actually two books, and I had a family friend that used to read those stories to my sister and I when we were growing up. I had 2 personal experiences before I really got involved with this. I'm an electrician, so a lot of times get calls to, can you fix my lights or can you do some work for me? And one of my really good friends, close friends, his grandmother had died and his brother was moving into her house. And they said, can you come hang some lights for us? Sure, I can go hang lights. I'm working on the 3rd floor of their house, and it was around this time of year starting to get dark, and there was a light on in the hallway, and it kept going out. Being an electrician, it's a nuisance trip problem. I go down, I reset the breaker, I go back upstairs, start working, it goes out again. Finally I say, enough with the lights, I need to get this job done. They didn't like me being there. Down on the floor below me, people are walking around, the house is empty, all but me. And this is before I really got involved in this, so I'm freaked out, the hair on the back of my neck standing up, and I'm looking at my watch. And if I had a radio that night, no problem, I wouldn't have heard them walking around. I said, my buddy's not here by 7:30, I'm out, I'm gonna have to come back and finish. He shows up, I tell him the house is haunted, I don't wanna hear about it, I don't wanna know about it. Cape May is another haunted place that I've been to. I had a personal experience at a place called the Queen's Hotel, very haunted. Again, I was with my wife that night, and I was actually grabbed on my ankle. I was laying in bed, and at the time I had the covers up over my head, and I'm like, do I really want to peek out over those covers and take a look? I didn't tell my wife right away, because she would have kept me up all night on every noise or every sound. What was that? Oh, I don't know. It was nothing. Does anybody have any other questions?
What does EVP stand for?
EVP stands for Electronic Voice Phenomena. And what we try to do there is, we'll ask a question, hopefully get an answer. Sometimes a lot of times we don't hear them. Sometimes we do hear them. I don't have an EVP with me from Fort Mifflin. Before I joined the group, I was doing an investigation in Fort Mifflin. And I have a good friend who has another friend who's a medium, and he was telling me about a month later that he was at Fort Mifflin with his medium friend, and he's real good with dowsing rods. Everybody in the group knows I can't use dowsing rods for anything. But he was working with his dowsing rods, and the medium said, there's a gentleman over there who wants to know what you're doing and why you're interrupting the card game. Now, I mentioned the card game because the EVP I got is shuffling of cards. And it was in a room, it was about 5 of us in a room, and all of us heard the card shuffling. Everybody's like, what was that? What was that? And when I played it back on my digital voice recorder, the hair on the back of my neck stood up, because that was the first time I ever heard a real-time EVP, and I got it. But a lot of times we catch them on the digital voice recorder, and we don't get it until we play it back. One of the other things we do, real quick, and I don't want to steal anybody else's thunder, 'cause I don't know if it's included, but when we go on investigations, we just don't show up at your house. If you call us out and say, I think my house is haunted, and we come out and investigate, we're gonna come out for 3 or 4 hours, and we're gonna do a full-blown investigation. We're gonna take pictures, I'm gonna set up my equipment, we're gonna do our EVPs, and then we all go home, and whoever's the team leader, could be me, could be Frank, could be Sue, we mail out our reports to everybody on the team. It has to be back within 2 weeks, and we go through our evidence. We have another investigator who's not here tonight. She and I go through the EVPs, and we run a test that yes, it's an EVP, or no, it's not, before we present it to our prospective clients or our client, because they get any evidence that we have, and they get any pictures that we have. Yes.
What are your pieces of equipment you use to measure? What did you?
The millimeter.
That's it. So what is that? What is a?
The millimeter is an EMF detector,
Okay.
but
To measure.
it's a more advanced EMF detector. All right. This is a regular EMF detector, and I could use this on every investigation.
So like on the shows that we see on TV, are they quite pronounced? Like, are they so faint that the human ear couldn't hear them and could only hear it?
Sometimes as an EVP, sometimes people can hear them. A lot of times you'll be watching Ghost Hunters, and we'll say Jason and Steve who investigate. They'll be walking down the hallway having a conversation. They'll, shh, did you hear that? You know, and then when they play it back, because a lot of times they play it back, you'll hear something faint. So a lot of times you can hear it, but it's not like me talking to you.
Right.
It's just real faint.
So that's a certain kind of spirit then too, like what she was discussing earlier.
Could be.
So, okay.
That would be an intelligent
Right.
haunt trying to get your attention.
I have a question.
Yes.
Your recorder, the little one.
The digital voice
Is that
recorder.
the same thing you can buy in the store? Or
I
is
bought
that
this.
special?
I bought this at Radio Shack.
So it's something that you could use every day?
You could use it every day.
Yeah.
Now, there's a theory, if you're trying to go to investigating your own house, there's a theory behind that, and we subscribe not to investigate your own house because you live there 24 hours a day. If you get an EVP that comes back that says get out, you know, just like your expression, it's like, does it really want me to get out of my house? But it might not be saying get out of your house, it might be saying get out a deck of cards, or get out the milk because I'm thirsty. You know, so you don't know. That's why we subscribe to not investigating your own house.
What we do.
We do it. Yeah, we investigated Frank's house and Christine's house.
No.
You find anything?
There's we found some stuff. Yes.
I was listening to an NPR show where Ira Glass was talking to these people who had things going on in their house, and they called an exorcist. And the first thing the exorcist did was he checked their heating pipes, and they found out that about 90% of the houses, a lot of carbon monoxide is leaking.
Yes.
And do you do that, like go through the process of elimination, checking all these things first before you?
When we go to a client's house, we listen to their claims of activity, and wherever we are, we either try to figure out why it's happening. But to answer your question, we don't come across that often, but we do listen to what they have to say, and we try to figure out what's going on, help them out the best we can.
Like in The Conjuring, where the people came out and talked about everything that could be besides a real.
Right.
Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, not only will we investigate the house, but we will try and figure out if, say they're saying, my door opens up at night in the summer. Well, there could be a door downstairs and it could be a vacuum. If somebody's coming in that door, that could be opening the door upstairs. Things like that. We will try and help people. Not just come in and say, oh my God, yes, your house is haunted. Move, just go, just get out. We'll try and figure it out first. And, we're not just going to come in and do what we do and just leave. I mean, we'll try and help the people first. And debunking is the first thing we'll do. Yes, you in the back.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi.
So I actually bought a new house a year ago, and I think on the first day or two that I lived there, my garage door started going up and down by itself. And here I am, my first reaction is like, oh my gosh, I bought a haunted house. Then my second reaction is, no, there's gotta be a reason for this. So every time it happened, I started running out down the driveway, and it was my neighbor's remote was triggering my door. So it's like, yeah, your first inclination is like, what's going on? But yeah, try to remain calm.
Actually, her first thing was, Frank, guess what?
True story.
So, anybody?
Have you ever told anybody to get out?
No.
No.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, we've never called a house haunted either.
Okay.
Okay? We will say you have paranormal activity, or you have some type of activity, but your house, we've never, for me, and for members of the group, for us to come across a haunted house, I need to see chairs flying around, okay? I need to be floating, you know, all this stuff has to happen, and it's not gonna happen. But God forbid if it ever does, I'll be out before then. Just so you know that. I'm, yeah, right out the door.
You're good at running out of places, right?
What's the oddest thing or scariest thing you've ever actually witnessed?
Well, I'll tell you what, keep that thought when it gets to me, oh, trust me. I've got some. So does anybody else have anything, questions for Kirk and his toys? Or Kirk's toys? Just when he asks the toys a question, they'll answer. Anybody?
The guy and his gadgets.
That's right. Gadget guy. Oh, there you go, Kirk.
Do you have one of those meters that can translate what the ghost is saying to you?
An ovulus? I have an
I don't
ovulus,
know what
yes.
that's called.
Yes, I do. I have one of those.
Trust me, he's got it. He's got it.
Have you ever found your equipment being disabled? Or like, you know, impaired some way where it's like,
Not so much turned off.
yeah, like it's like a
Remember,
I had-
no, I'm talking about like it being like disabled, like, you know, nothing you did. like,
Manipulate, did I ever
yeah.
have equipment manipulated?
Watches.
I had a watch. At Ramey's house, we were investigating, and Christine and I were in.
Oh, I meant the equipment you're actually using.
No, not so much. Battery drains all
Yeah,
the
okay,
time.
okay, but nothing that,
Battery drains all the time.
but something that
That's-
can be explained, I meant like something that.
Well, the theory behind battery draining is the spirits are trying to manipulate the
That's what I-
energy to manifest themselves. So they're grabbing the energy off the batteries. But the oddest experience I ever had was at Ramey's house with Christine. We were in Ramey's daughter's bedroom doing an investigation, and a lot of times when we investigate, depending on how we write our report, some people write a report on a timeline, which I do, and a lot of people write paragraphs, and both are acceptable. But as I move from room to room, I'll look at the watch and I'll be like, okay, it's 8:05. We're going to start an EVP session, and then 8:30 we're going to leave and go to the next room. So it's 8:05, start an EVP session. 8:30, Christine and I are moving into our next location. When we were moving out of the one bedroom to the next bedroom, and it was 11:20 when we were walking out, and my watch said 4:20. And that's something we still haven't figured out why.
7 hours.
Yeah, we still don't know why. Ahead, 4:20 a.m. Yes.
I'm full of questions, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
This sounds
That's
like
fine.
the first line of a horror movie, but I'm gonna ask all of you, you believe in ghosts?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You have ghosts and spirits, what's like the difference?
Goes to earthbound, stays on the earth, spirit can go back and forth.
How do you know?
Well, that's a good question. I mean,
Theoretically.
a psychic would talk to a spirit. A person may see a ghost lingering in a location. But it possibly could be a spirit too. There's no real way. Right?
Anybody else? All right, we're gonna move. Thank you, Kirk. Hey. Well, let's hear it for Kirk's toys. Come on. There we go. So before I bring up our next presenter, all right, you might know this one now. Jason Voorhees. Everybody know who he is? Okay, good. Very good.
Watched him fight Freddy last night.
Yes. What's the name of this movie?
Nightmare on Elm Street.
No.
Friday the
Friday the
13th.
Friday the 13th, thank you. In the first Friday the 13th, I'm going to tax all of your members here. Who was the first person to die?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
answered the question in Scream. And it's
Okay.
Jason Voorhees' mother.
Very good.
Wow.
Are you 21?
I'm not 21.
All right, then you get a flashlight. No beer over, and you know what? You get a pencil up. Okay. You can't beat that one, huh? All right. So Sue's going to get up next, and Sue's going to talk about evidence review and debunking. She doesn't have that many toys, but she's going to use Kirk's toys. So Kirk's toys get another good play. Yeah, Kirk. So.
Okay, so when we bring on new members, there's 3 things that you have to start with, and I think Kirk probably talked about most of them. The first one will be your camera. As Kirk said, any kind of camera, doesn't matter. Although, I think Kirk had mentioned you could use your phone. That's fine for when you're at home, but we don't allow that on investigations because we keep the phones turned off. The reason for that being, he doesn't have a K2 meter here, but phones can interfere with any of your EMF meters, especially a K2, because they tune into that particular frequency. So we shut our phones off when we're investigating. But if you're at home and you think you see something, feel free to take a picture. And then a digital recorder for 2 reasons. EVPs, which Kirk mentioned, we're always trying to get EVPs, but also just to keep a recorded diary of what happens. So when we do write our reports, you don't want to be sitting there writing stuff down while you're investigating because that distracts you from what's going on. And then the flashlight, this is not mine, so I'm not.
It's a tri-color.
How do you switch the colors?
Just
Oh, there you go. All right, so I hope I don't blind anyone. You can see that's green, red, white. So if we're outside, like in a cemetery, we will use our white flashlights. Or if we're in a basement sometimes where people can't see the light. But if we were investigating here, or especially in your home, 2 reasons we'll use either the red or the green. The first is that it's less invasive on your night vision. But also, if we're investigating your house and all the lights are turned out and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, we don't want your neighbors to see someone walking around with a white flashlight and call the police. That would be bad. So those are the first 3 things. Now, as far as evidence review on the EVPs, so we listen to our recordings. If we think we have an EVP, the first thing we do is check in with all the other people who were on our team that night and see if they have it. Because I can't tell you how many times, probably 9 out of 10 times, you think you have an EVP and you're excited, and then you'll give it to your partner and they'll say, oh, that was me whispering, sorry, because they'll check their recording and they have it. And then if nobody on your team has it, if they don't claim it as their voice, or they don't have it on their recorder, then we pass it along to the other teams that were with us that night, because a lot of times we're in small spaces, especially if it's someone's home. They might be upstairs and we might be downstairs, and maybe I didn't hear Frank saying something at the time, but voices carry. We also try not to whisper because, believe it or not, a whisper sometimes will pick up a lot more clear than an actual spoken voice like this. Oh yes, we also, well, I want to say first, we also tag noises, so if you hear a car go by, you hear a dog barking, if your belly makes a noise, our bellies make noises all the time and it sounds really creepy. So you'll hear us say that a lot, that was my belly.
Especially Frank after he ate a couple
Oh,
of
yeah.
chili.
Yeah, Frank and I were the worst.
Yeah.
So after you check with all the other team members, then as Kirk said, we turn it over to him and one of our other team members, and she actually uses Audacity to analyze it. She looks for in a certain hertz range, because the human voice, I don't know if I get the number right, I think the human voice is 300, I think. Will not be picked up below 300 hertz, so if it's below 300 hertz, she's pretty sure it's an EVP. And there's a lot of other technical stuff that she looks for, which I don't remember. I don't know if you do, Kirk.
I'm just getting involved
Yeah,
with
you're just
this,
getting
so.
trained, okay.
And she's not here, but trust us.
Yeah.
We throw out a lot more than what we present to people.
Mm-hmm. Somebody was asking about EMFs earlier. We do, when we first get to a location, we'll walk around with usually like a digital EMF, something real basic, and try to get the base readings, because we have been in locations. We were at a VFW one night where Frank was asking questions and we kept getting hits on my digital meter, and it was going up to like over 100, which is super high. I mean, normal ranges are maybe up to 10. Things that give off EMFs, you know, your refrigerator, big screen TVs will give off.
Digital clocks.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah,
Let's see. You have a battery in this car? Yeah.
should be.
Yeah, so that's only going up to 2.8. A lot of times it'll go up a lot higher. But we'll walk around and try to get base readings so that when we do get a hit, we know it's not within the normal range for that property. We were in that VFW that night and we were getting really high hits, and we were so excited we were sure that we were communicating with someone, but then after, you know, the excitement wears off and we thought, that had to be too good to be true. So we went back and down to the basement, and sure enough, it was a really old building, and they had wires running out to the air conditioning all along the basement. And every time we held the EMF meter up, it went over 100. So we are very careful about, before we call something evidence. And then pictures, start.
What is debugging?
So the big thing you all hear about on TV and everybody claims is evidence is orbs, which kind of looks like what you're seeing there. We don't use orbs unless we have a couple of other things happening at the same time. We need to have like maybe a temperature spike or a drop, which could be an indication that the spirits are trying to manipulate the environment to get energy and manifest. Somebody maybe has been touched, or somebody who's sensitive says they feel someone in the area. What else?
But it's best if it all happens at once.
Yeah. You're looking for a couple things to happen at the same time, along with the picture of the orb. It also has to be, I never get this right, so explain it. I always have to ask, because it looks like an orb to me, and Frank will say, no, it's not, and here's why.
Orbs have to be perfectly round. If I had my laptop, right? If somebody sent me, if one of the guys or females on the group sent me a picture of an orb, I blow this thing up, and I mean I just blow it all the way up, guaranteed not one of them is perfectly round. There'll be a slight dent somewhere that terms it to not be an orb. But 9 times out of 10, this was taken outside. It's dew, it's mist, it's a bug, okay? If you were to, yeah, can you shop light? I thought maybe she was waving to me first. No, not that one. Oh, hey, now nobody can see me. Turn it back a little. Hey. Yeah, so if you were to go home tonight, take a pillow, okay, turn all your lights out, bang it against your hand, and then get your camera and take flashes real fast, guaranteed you're going to have worms everywhere.
Yep.
All it is, little bits of dust. That's it. We do not show these on our website unless things like Sue just said to you happen. They all have to happen at once now. We do have a picture of that. It's the only one we will ever present to a client. Anything we're showing here is debunking, or it's a cool picture, something like that, and we'll tell you why we're not using this. But that's it. Yeah, so guys, I'm sorry.
Wait.
I almost fell.
Is that a real photo or is that a drawing?
Oh no,
No,
that's
it's
a
a
photo.
real picture.
Oh,
It's a night, it's a
this is
dream.
at,
Maybe turn down a little bit. Can you put it like halfway?
Is that at, or is that at Normal Health?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
perfect.
this was at the prison in New Jersey. Burlington County Prison, it's out back.
Even if the humidity is over 60, you might not see the rain or the mist, but it can still pick it up because there's condensation in the air.
Bugs, the catching a bug, it's great. I mean, it's so bright, you're thinking, oh my God, I got an orb.
Yeah.
This is Sue, what she does best when we actually do investigate.
The orb on me, an orb. And there's one on Blaze, and then there's, a bunch of them in there. Same thing. It was misting that night.
And the thing was, it actually just started, it was very lightly raining.
Mm-hmm. That one's a little bit hard to see.
Straight up here.
Yeah, I was looking
Yeah.
to see, that.
I don't know.
Well, okay, so there's an orb up there, but I'm just gonna step up front real quick. If you look like right about there, it's actually a bug.
Yeah.
But a lot of people look at that and say, oh, something paranormal. Bugs look really strange, especially if they get real close to your lens. Next.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's
You see that light
Right
coming
there.
down the middle of the... You will also see a lot on the internet about light rods and vortexes, and a theory is that again is a byproduct of the spirit trying to manifest. That's a strand of hair. One of our investigators actually played around with a lot of different things to see what they would look like, which is why when we take pictures, we used to tie our hair back, but now with digital cameras you don't have to so much do that. But we will hold our camera out here when we're taking pictures. You don't want it anywhere near your body and picking up something it shouldn't. I do.
We'll talk about that later.
Again, looks like a light rod. I was investigating with him that night.
This right here.
That's
You
from your
can't-
watch, isn't it?
No,
The
he
light-
actually had a flashlight,
Tiny little
Oh.
flashlight
Tied
on
to
his
his
wrist.
wrist.
Mhm.
and that's what that is.
So a lot of times, though, when you're taking a picture, you'll pick up a reflection, especially if there's a lot of mirrors in the room, or there's a couple lights on, or maybe a night light. You can get that kind of effect. That's a camera strap, but again, people sometimes call that, and that's, I think, pretty common. That's, I also, a lot of us don't keep a strap on our camera for that reason.
We do like to have fun. This was taken at Laurel Hill Cemetery.
That's why we don't smoke on investigations. Because that's what it'll look like. Or, you know, if it's cold, we're not usually outside when it's cold enough to make a mist like that, but if you are outside and when you breathe you can see your breath, sometimes at Laurel Hill that'll happen later in the year. You actually hold your breath when you take your pictures.
And there's a little word.
Mm-hmm. There you go, that's
This I
smoke
think was
again.
smoke.
Yep.
I think it was smoke on this one.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Up in the right-hand corner, and the left, down in the left-hand corner.
Right up, yeah, right here.
And what's down there on the left?
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Frank's gonna explain this because he took this picture.
Is that a riot?
Sorry.
This was taken at Gettysburg. You all know Alder against. This was taken at Devil's Den. I do not smoke, and I know better to hold my breath when I take a picture. And it was not even this dark.
It was like 4 in the afternoon.
It's a
No,
riot.
6 actually. It was close to 4. But yeah, so, and this was a picture I got. This is the only evidence I've ever gotten at Gettysburg.
And you had a picture before and after.
Yes, yeah,
You did
I
not
took
have
actually a
this.
few before and a few after, and there was nothing there. Thanks. This is another one of mine.
Laurel Hill.
It's at Laurel Hill Cemetery. A lot of times, we'll actually pick up evidence when we're really just standing around. This we, investigator and myself were just actually walking through the cemetery talking, I remember what we're talking about, and I was just, flashing my picture. And when I reviewed my evidence the next day, there was no mist that night, there was no low-lying clouds.
1:39 in the morning?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was April, so it wasn't,
It wasn't cold.
it wasn't cold enough for that.
So what do you
But we
call
did pick
it?
that up.
What, you'd say an entity or something?
Yeah, I described it as some type of entity. I didn't know what it was. I mean, I took pictures after, and it was nothing there either.
Where was that? That K-Lock?
No,
That's up by General Meats, isn't it?
no, it's back when we first walk in. And you go to the right. It's along that way.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's another one of
Also
mine.
Frank's. Frank had some great pictures.
Yeah. This was at a bar in the Northeast. No, I was not drinking.
Irish.
Another thing we do not do on investigations. Now, I actually bypassed this photo. Didn't even include it. Thought when I saw it, hey, dummy, put your finger in front of the lens. But my son was actually looking at my photos. He's also a part of the group. And he put it on the computer, and he was looking at it that way, and he said, Dad, you got something. I said, no, I don't. If you look right here, and you look closely, you can see the red of the pipe. Go right through. We tried to debunk this. Put our thumbs over everything. If you put your thumb over,
You can't see anything?
you can't see anything. It would just be a dense picture. So this is something, I don't know what it was, but it was cool. And we did actually send it out to 2 photographers, 2 professionals, just for them to clarify, and they both came back saying they didn't know what it was. Because it was not my finger, it was not my camera strap, I do not have long hair, I just had a t-shirt on that night, so.
Did they call you there to investigate that
They
car?
did, yes,
Oh, okay.
yes, I'm sorry, they did. They said that one of their claims was that at about 2:30 in the morning, they would have a mist come across the floor
After they closed.
after they closed. And it's probably all the cigarette smoke just coming up because the place stunk to high heaven. This was back when you could smoke in a bar. So, and that people standing outside would hear people. And all the windows were closed. Well, not really, because we found low-lying vents that went right to the outside. People would hear us outside, so. Unfortunately, we had to debunk everything, except for this cool picture. And you're done. Oh, does anyone have any questions?
You have a picture of
The hand?
yeah.
I have it on my phone.
It's on
I have it.
Hold on, go with you. Got one? Your hand
I'll
on the
just
board.
describe it.
No.
I mean, we were at
I'm walking around.
Okay. So we were at a private home investigating, and Frank and a couple other investigators were in the basement. Did you?
Talking about the wrong thing.
Well, I'm talking about
That's what I'm
the house
talking
in
about.
Morristown.
I thought you were talking about.
What are you talking about?
The house in Morristown.
Oh, that picture. That picture's on your
Yeah.
hand. That's on my
That's
stuff.
what I'm
Oh, you're gonna talk about it?
Yeah, it's on
I'm
my
talking
sorry.
about that.
was he talking?
Oh,
Where's Jersey?
yeah. Okay.
Hey, can you hit this
Again,
other
in a
lights on?
private home.
Yes. This was in a private home.
On or off?
Off. I mean on, I'm sorry. Thank you, dear.
We were doing our walkthrough.
Yeah.
We hadn't even started investigating yet.
Yeah.
Went
This
into
was-
the woman's bedroom.
This was
Oh,
me, Sue,
yeah.
and my son Kyle. And her thing was, you know, I have stuff going on here, and she has a young daughter, so right away we're thinking, well, maybe she has something to do with it. So she brings us into her master bedroom, and she's saying, tell us what happens here. And we look down on the bed.
Well, we had walked through first and there was nothing there.
Right. But then when we walked back, we looked down on the bed, and we found this. Yeah, of a hand, of a small hand. And not one of us there has
Like a
very,
child.
has small hands.
And right around that time too,
Come back to the second one.
when we got there, she said her daughter wasn't home because she was younger and she didn't want her to be freaked out. And Frank and I both heard a little girl from downstairs like holler up the stairs, and I looked at her, I said, I thought you said your daughter wasn't here. She said, she's not. I said, well, who was that downstairs? She said, I have no idea. So, I think that's everything. Any questions?
For the whole group house, has anyone been down to Mexico on the Day of the Dead?
No, that would be great.
And you say that very large hand. My son actually.
It's a little half hour away from us still.
And this
Still
one.
early.
Fruit does that.
Any other questions?
How long have you been investigating?
We've been together for, is it coming on 7 years? I think it is.
I think it's coming on 8 years.
Okay.
8 years
In
from 10th of
November.
November.
And
Yeah,
did you have
maybe
personal
it's,
experiences
I
to?
had bigger hands.
I have, I mean,
interested?
I've always had an interest in the paranormal.
Yeah.
Right before I joined the group, my brother had bought a home where the previous owner had died there, which I knew, but I didn't tell the kids. They were teenagers at the time, and they were helping him rehab the home. And my nephew eventually told me that when he was there alone, he would see a woman in white walk across the hallway. He said he never told anyone because he thought they would think he was nuts. And then a couple weeks after that, he had some friends over. They played hockey. He said he didn't get in the house because they weren't living there at the time. He said, you know, go on over, get comfortable. There's drinks up in the fridge upstairs. I'm gonna go home and shower, and I'll meet you over there. And he came over like an hour later, and they were all standing in the foyer, and one of them had like a fire extinguisher, and one of them had his hockey stick, and I said, what's going on? And he said, some lady broke into your house, and she's upstairs walking around. He said, well, what does she look like? And they were like, man, she's got like long dark hair and a white dress on, and you need to call the cops. He said, it's okay, it's just our ghost, don't worry about it. And he said, okay, see ya. They left, they didn't come back for about a month. So, anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So Kirk's going to back up and not use his toys. I know you're all upset right now. So I do have one more question. First off, have I told you how much our t-shirts are? Very good, $10. Has everybody been listening to what I've been saying? For that free t-shirt? I can see no, so I'm not giving a free one away tonight, I know it.
I missed that. I was.
Oh,
I
I'm
came in
sorry.
late for the- yeah.
Yeah, you came in late.
Oh,
Sorry. Just listen to everything I say. I'm going to ask one question at the end, and whoever shoots their hand up first with the right answer gets a free t-shirt. Okay. Oh yeah. I forgot what I was gonna say. It's an age thing. Go ahead, Kurt.
I touched on it earlier. EVP stands for electronic voice phenomenon. EMF stands for electromagnetic force. EMF is a direct result of electricity flowing. There's two effects of electricity. There's heat and magnetism. We're reading the magnetism on the EMF part. Sue touched on it earlier that when we do a base reading in the house, we'll go around and check EMF. EMF, get it off these lights, you can get it off the receptacles, you can get it off the television. We set up a baseline reading so that when we go back with our equipment during the investigation, you'll see if there's any changes in the EMF, could be paranormal activity. If we get an EVP or we get a temperature hit, we can submit that as evidence. What do we have next, Frank? That's it?
Yeah, it's usually you guys talking.
What's that?
It's just usually you talking about it, but you pretty much.
Yeah.
I covered it.
Do we have some?
Yeah, we do have some EVPs, we've got to wait until I get to the PowerPoint, because I don't want to mess the PowerPoint up. I have to go somewhere else to get it, sorry. So, Randy's gonna come next. Wait, does anybody else have any questions for Kirk? No? Okay, one more question for Kirk. So, there's a paranormal investigative group out there, okay? There's 2 guys, 2 girls, and they have some stupid dog with them. Who knows their names?
It's Mystery Machine Scooby-Doo.
Their names.
Daphne, Freddy, Shaggy, Scooby, and Thelma.
There you go. Very good. Very good. All right, on to Randy now.
So I'm going to talk to everybody about protection, namely spiritual protection. So Frank was talking about if he was in a situation where a chair went flying across the room, and I think if anyone of us were in a situation where we saw something go flying, we might go running, screaming out of the house, and you're outside and you guys are standing in your pajamas and the neighbors are watching you, and you take a deep breath and realize you have to go back in your house. So once you go back inside, what might you do? It's the middle of the night. What are you going to do to make yourself get through the night, to make yourself feel better? Is it a cultural action? Is it a spiritual belief? And there are a couple different things depending on what your background is. You may not believe in anything. But I'm going to talk about a few of the different types of things that people may do or recite to make them feel better. And sometimes investigators will also go on an investigation. Right up here is the prayer to St. Michael, and people may recite that before they go on an investigation. They may wear a medal. And it's really personal to you and how you feel. So a lot of times keep the prayer card in your pocket. What's the next thing? St. Benedict is another one that is used as a form of exorcism, and I think it's reciting, I'm not Catholic, so bear with me, I think reciting the prayer in the back is actually an act of exorcism. Latin. What did I say?
No, it's in Latin, because I have it.
A lot of people believe in the protection of gems or crystals, and they also believe that they may have different powers. I wear hematite, and a lot of people will do this for their blood flow and different, health reasons, copper and magnets and that sort of thing. Amethyst can be used for psychic connection and also psychic protection. And there's books and books and endless stores where they have all kinds of crystals. And again, it's personal. Some people may put them around their house. If they feel something's happening in a certain room, they may put certain crystals or rocks in that room. And sort of the mythology, which is sort of a bad way to say it, but the belief you have to cleanse crystals and make sure they're pure in order to have their full effect in that room. So maybe using moonlight or salt, or just making sure that they're actually going to work for you. So it goes very in depth if you were to look into it. What's that? And different Asian religions have different beliefs. I took a class in feng shui and studied that a little bit. And the concept of it is that the position of the room and or the balance of objects within the room affect the energy in the room. So for example, if you were to walk in a room and you see the pictures on the wall are all off kilter, how are you going to feel? Is it going to make you absolutely crazy because you have to straighten out that picture? Or maybe you walk in the room and you bump your leg on the couch or the coffee table every time you walk in, and it's making you so uncomfortable because it keeps happening. Or maybe you have a small room and really big furniture and you can't get it just right. So the idea is adjusting objects in the room, or maybe using things like mirror or sound things like chimes to change the energy of the room to bring it calm and make it peaceful. And the idea is also that if there's a lot of negative energy going on, that they may attract like negative energy. So you're trying to bring balance and peace and harmony to that space. It's been a while since I did this. This is another form of protection, and within this envelope there would be a prayer, and that can be used, I believe it's for a year, and then the prayer is burned. That's it? Oh.
It's sage.
Sage.
Nobody think what I know what you're all thinking what it really is. And it was not taken in my house.
So smudging.
Christine.
Smudging is another technique used to purify the energy of a room. And there are different elements used in smudging. This is an abalone shell, and then a lot of times they'll use a feather. And so the elements are representative of the sage is the earth, the sea is the shell, the smoke is the air, wind is a feather, and burning is the fire. The idea would be to walk around the room and purify the corners and all areas of the room. People also want to smudge themselves. It's really strong smelling, so I don't recommend it. If you have breathing problems, I really don't recommend it. But you can also buy smudge sprays that you can squirt it around the room. But it's just another technique people use to make themselves feel more comfortable. This is actually supposed to be depicting a circle of protection. So you'll see this in a lot of movies like The Craft, where they're casting a circle around themselves to protect themselves within that area. So and that's just depicting that. That's all I got. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
So the next one is me now. So now we're going to talk about psychic protection. First off, I'm a medium. Does anybody here know what a medium is? All right, what's a medium?
Communicating between this world and the other world.
Communicating with spirit. Yes, exactly. So, I was raised Catholic. I kind of go now with spirituality. Okay, it's where you're praising everything: the earth, the moon, the stars, everything. Does anybody know when spirituality started, or who started it? Shall we say? It started by the Fox sisters. Okay,
What?
and the Fox sisters in upstate New York. One of their big things was they would go around and they would try and knock off, like Harry Houdini did it, seances. Okay, they would go down, they would try and depict seances and try and get people's money. And this first picture here is okay.
Sorry, I hit it before you said
Randy, give me your zapper. This first picture here is a gentleman who had ectoplasm coming out of his nose.
Yeah.
What?
Is that in my picture?
Yes, it is.
His face is.
And this picture is me having ectoplasm coming out of his nose. Okay? Please tell me.
Christine, this is why we can't have nice
Yeah,
things.
I
This is
know.
why
This
I'm
is
not
why
good.
she doesn't usually sit here. So, okay, next picture. Okay.
You can leave that up a little longer.
Yeah, we can. Christine, hold on. You want to hit the circle. There you go. Okay, this picture here is, I think Sue was talking about how we do not present things to clients unless certain things happen. Okay, this picture is in a private home in Norristown, Pennsylvania. Okay, this is one of our very first investigations, and it was myself and two female investigators. We were in the back part of the basement. We were led to this house. A guy I used to work with grew up. His buddy lived there, and he grew up in the house with him, saying, "Oh my God, all these things happen. We're musicians. Things get turned over. Yeah, you're musicians, huh?" So he's like, "Come on, please come out." Okay. So we went out. So we're standing in the back, and all of a sudden it just started getting really cold in there. And one of the girls had a thermometer, and I think it was like a 15-degree temperature drop. So I had my hand out, and I said, "I feel there's something right here." I said, "If there's somebody here, please shake my hand." And at the same time, they took the picture, and as you can see, there's a little orb right there in my hand. So this was presented to the client. Same time this happened. Do not touch this. Same time this happened, we hear a little scratch. Like that. So we're thinking, oh great, now there's a mouse here somewhere around here. So there's actually a door behind me that leads into another part of the basement. So we step out there, don't see anything. So they have a baby grand, like a little piano there, and there's a dollhouse. Now she doesn't have any kids, and I don't think she had any daughters, so he must have played with the dollhouse when he was a kid. I don't know. So we're standing there, so let's do an EVP. So we start doing EVP. As God is my witness, and you want to see three people just stand there with dumb looks on their face. The dollhouse lit up, like somebody flicked every light on inside the dollhouse alone. There's no electricity. There's no batteries. There are no lights in this dollhouse. No wires, nothing. I, to this day, do not know how this happened, but we stood there listening. With our cameras in our hand. You think anybody took a picture? No, we didn't take one picture. And after we're standing there, all of a sudden, the piano played 3 tunes. I said, you know, it's a break time, let's go. Boom, we went right up the steps. Probably one of the two freakiest things that's ever happened to me. Somebody had asked, I think it was you asked. Another one was, actually just happened last year. We were up in Spring City, Pennsylvania, which is up near Penhurst Museum. Or
Penhurst Asylum is, she lives on the corner on Penhurst Road.
Yeah, she's literally a mile from the place. She called us and said, you know, these things are happening. Okay, so myself, Jim, and my wife, we go down to the basement. Oh, nothing happens in the basement. It's the safest place. Right. So I have to under her. We're down there, and I kid you not, within 10 minutes, all of a sudden we heard what sounded like, and it sounded like it was right next to me, somebody taking their foot on cement and just grinding it in there. And
putting a cigarette out.
yeah, and the three of us just like looked at each other, and I got this really weird feeling over me, and I said, you know what, out, let's go, just up the steps. It was the most uncomfortable, and I'm gonna say scary feeling that I ever had. And we went upstairs, the three of us, and we were sitting in the living room, and we looked over towards the basement door, and a red light appeared. And no, this thing was, this was big. You know what it looked like when somebody takes a camera and you hit it just a little bit, a red light will appear.
Oh, yeah.
All three of our cameras were sitting on the table. We were the only three on that floor. But that red light was there, and
It didn't come from outside or
it did
anything?
not come from outside.
It was like in the kitchen.
Yeah,
It was like a
it
face.
was, there was no window there. It was like basement steps.
Something for the
There.
light.
Cabinet.
Yeah.
It was right on the cabinet.
Yeah, we have no idea what
So
happened.
how do you, like, go forward with that, like, investigation? Like, do you see who lived there before, or what possibly happened, or?
Well, we never did, because we're going back again, so
Oh,
probably
good.
when we go back, we'll do a research of the house, the land, things like that.
Yeah.
She has a medium who's a friend come in, and I didn't tell anybody in the group this, so,
He told me, I think.
oh, well, you're gonna hear it now.
You shouldn't tell them.
All right.
I mean, go ahead. Here.
Walk out of the room.
I'll just-
Look at you, hold
Well,
yours.
yeah, earmuffs.
You might not even be able to go on that
I
investigation.
know, you're right.
She had a friend who's a medium who came in there, and, you know, she didn't tell them what we got, you know, things like that. She went into the basement, and she said, there's something in this basement, and I feel that it's a doctor from the asylum.
Ah, is that what she said? You didn't tell me that.
Yes, yeah, that's it.
Because the son was going there. I think he might have brought that back for her.
I don't know. She pretty much pinpointed a lot, like people talking. Remember we had people talking in the one bedroom? We couldn't figure out where it was coming from. That she had two female spirits who would follow her around and like to watch her paint. She was a painter. So, yeah, so that was kind of cool. Good for us.
Yeah.
I got the
Yeah.
chills, dude. That house was crazy.
I still, look, I
know.
still have the chills just thinking about that basement. It just freaked me out. So, okay, so that's my story. Any questions about that picture?
Did you feel it was like an evil presence in
This
there?
picture?
Well, no,
No,
you
that-
said you got really freaked out.
At the Spring City?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think Frank's sort
Because
of
he
like our
tortured all
canary in
those
the
people
coal
there.
mine.
Yeah.
If Frank's getting, you know, the heebie-jeebies, the rest of us are like, all right, it's gonna
Yeah.
come around.
If it's bothering me, if I'm starting to get a little worried, and I say go, we go.
Frank, seriously, like, what are you worried about?
One, I don't know what it is. Two, I don't know if it's friendly. Three, it could be evil, and I don't want it attaching myself, my wife, or my friend.
Attaching?
Attaching with the
Sure.
host, right?
Following you.
Well, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
follow me home. Okay, like Christine's my cousin, so I don't want obviously anything following her home. Raimi has 2 kids. Kirk has a kid. Sue's great. We love Sue. Sue's my right.
He likes it too.
We like Sue too. Yeah. Sue's my right
I have
hand.
2 dogs.
Yeah. Sue has 2 dogs. Sue's my hand. And speaking of which,
You're not wearing it.
I know. Where's your belt?
my what?
Your ID button.
Oh, I left my badge at home.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You just mentioned dogs. Could animals sense things?
Sure.
I
Oh
do.
God, yeah. How many times have?
I definitely go around my.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen dogs barking at a corner. Okay, or follow like cats. You'll see cats go like this.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
But just back to your, like, we've had a place, a restaurant, I won't name it, but we had it follow, had
Had
it-
something
yeah.
follow
had
us
something
home.
follow us home.
Yeah.
All different people in our group had different experiences in their own home, and it all.
And their
re-
kids.
And their kids, and it all related back to this place, so we did bring it.
We
you know,
did bring
came
something
with
home
us.
that night.
Yeah, but what I wanna know is like when that happens, so what? You know, do these things actually hurt people or?
No, they usually don't hurt people.
But they could.
Yeah.
It could, But like Christine was saying, in one place we went to, I was just telling the story tonight, I had somebody follow me home. And a lot of times you can just tell whoever's following you home, you're not welcome here. There's a real famous demonologist that has since passed named Ed Warren. And he would tell you that if you had something to follow you home, and again, it goes back to whatever spirituality you follow, and he was a Catholic, and he would say, in the name of Jesus Christ, you're not welcome here, you need to leave. They follow you home because we're all energy, and they like our energy, and they want to attach to our energy. Anybody can have anybody follow them home. You don't have to be on an investigation.
You can go to a store and buy
Yeah.
an antique.
Yeah.
I've heard lots of stories of people buying antiques, taking it home, and
Annabelle.
all of a sudden, you got things happening in your house. It's not so much that, like, I'm not afraid that I'm gonna all of a sudden fly up in the air, or, you know, an ant's gonna be floating in the ceiling one morning, I'm gonna wake up and she's gonna be 5 feet above me, which is cool. But it's the fact that I don't know what it is. To me, it feels evil, not so much, or bad. Like something that I'm not comfortable with.
It was very intimidating.
It's like being around a person, like somebody, like a human that you find really irritating,
Repulsive.
or repulsive, or like that coworker you just cannot stand and make your skin crawl. You get that feeling and you can't see a reason why it's happening. And so like it's just emotional response
It'll
to
bring
it.
those emotions in your house. You may not realize that it was brought from somewhere else, but all of a sudden your husband's irritating you. You know,
Angry.
It angry all the time. It could be because something was brought in. So that's what we mean by we don't want to bring anything home.
And
We
we don't
protect
have-
ourselves before and after we leave a place.
We each have our own prayers that we would say before we go on an investigation and when we're leaving the house, so that nothing does follow us up. And I hope that answered your question.
I'm fascinated.
Oh, okay, okay, good, good. It's quick.
Well, actually,
Here we go.
going to the opposite of that, have you ever been to a house and like they keep doing more things and hoping yet you'll come back to them? Like it's like you excite them, whatever, see, oh, let's go, we want them to keep coming back, you know, whatever's in the house itself.
I mean, not so much,
Just
I
like
mean,
like little teasers, it's like
Yeah.
they maybe act up for you, hoping you'll get an invite back.
well, I don't know if they're thinking that, I mean,
Well, I mean, some like they may think, oh, we like them coming over, let's see how we can entice them to come again.
yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, like that girl made us cookies. We wanted to go back.
I mean,
Nothing like-
we're actually going back for the third
Yeah,
time now.
she made us
She keeps making me cookies, and well, I'm just a sucker for a chocolate chip, so.
She does have activity.
Yeah, she does, but it's good that she makes us cookies.
Yeah.
Please don't take it. There's nothing, and she made sandwiches too, which, oh, come on, you know. So these are just some other pictures that we have up, that I have, I've thrown up there, and I know I have to update them. As you can see, there's, what's that called right there?
Orb.
Right, but is it really an orb?
Bug.
It's like
No.
a bug. It's real bright, it's a bug.
Why would a bug turn up like that?
It's just, the time with the flash.
Yeah, it reflects off.
I mean, why wouldn't the bug turn up the shape of the bug?
It's
Instead
moving.
of a circle?
Yeah, oh, there you go, it's moving. I'll take that one.
And maybe with like a flash off of the gravestone as well could.
This one, okay. This one, remember I said, and Rick, very good, yes, myself and the other rescuer were just actually walking through Laurel Hill talking and taking pictures. This was actually right around the corner from that. It's hard to see, it's right there.
Yeah, the lights were dim.
Yeah. So.
I don't know what's wrong.
You might as well just sit and sleep.
Yeah, you just sit here.
This, okay, this one,
Can we dim the lights?
Yeah, you can see better.
yeah, they won't be able to see me.
Which one is it?
Oh.
I think that's good.
That's good.
Other one.
You want
Other
that
one.
light off? Yeah, turn that, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Somebody's gonna say that in the library.
The electrician doesn't know how to use the light.
It's a little switch. So this one here, you see it's real faint right here,
Yeah.
okay? Now this is gonna sound really weird, but when I zoomed up on this a lot, I mean a lot, it's a face.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is that thing on the ground?
This right here.
Oh, I thought you meant under your hand.
There's my laptop. Just kidding.
Right over the 3, like about a couple inches. Is
Nah,
that 3?
no, it's that right there. Yeah.
You can magnify that.
No, but, or 9 minutes. Okay, this was taken, okay, there's 2 bugs. This one, for some reason, came up kind of red. And the one all the way over there came up white.
It's not just me.
No, it's you.
There you go.
Okay, there's another one. This one actually, when I zoomed in on it, was actually round. But it's outside, so I can't use it.
Looks like a moon.
Yeah, Millionaire's Row. That
Yep.
place is sweet. That's where I'm gonna get buried.
And we won't
Better
remember.
start saving your money.
Right?
Where's this?
Here's another,
Long
there's
Hill
one
Side.
right there. And this, the mist thing right there, it wasn't cold, I mean, it was cold that night because it was March, but I don't remember any low-lying clouds, not low enough to be seen there. So I really have no explanation for that.
Frank, is that the guy from the Titanics?
No.
No?
This one, another good round orb right there, over there on the side. Again, it's outside, so I really can't use it as evidence. This one, somebody can't work the laptop. Here's another good example of a bug flying through. Now it's red, and actually if you look real close, you can see kind of a trail there. Here's another bright orb there, and a dull one over there. Okay, who can spot the orb? Very good.
Where is it?
Right here.
Oh, right there in the middle, yeah.
Yep. All right, well, that's that I saw before. Oh, that's it. That's the end of the slideshow. Kirk, lights, please. All right, so.
So you were saying you were in a medium?
Oh, wait, but I'm not done.
Yeah.
This whole thing. I want to play some EVPs for you.
Oh, I thought you were going to play me some plays from last night's horrible game.
No. God forbid, no.
We didn't review that yet.
Yeah, right. Okay, this one was taken, and actually, this is actually FSPI's very first investigation at a private house in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania. This one here, wait a minute, I'm going to stop it real fast. Ignore that. Okay. I'll give you a little background. We were actually, the client was actually giving us a tour of the house. We'd never been there before as a group. So we were actually in the basement, and we all had our voice recorders on. Only one person picked this up, but we all had our voice recorders working. My son Kyle picked it up. So let me tell you, you guys tell me what you think of this.
Laugh?
Yep. Exactly.
We didn't hear
Pretty
that.
much exactly what we thought too when we heard that.
Clear. I know.
And really creepy. I'll play again.
Yeah, that
Sounds
one
like-
is weird.
And I can tell you right now, there were no children with us that night.
I hear somebody talking, then there
Yeah.
was a laugh.
But then you hear the
on it.
laugh right there.
So which, they're both
No, it's mainly just the laugh.
talking as people.
Yeah, the people
Laugh.
talking in the background was probably one of us, or the homeowner giving us instructions about things, but it's the laugh. This one was taken at Germantown, in Germantown rather, at Clifton, thank you, Kristen.
Oh.
Clifton, we were granted access into there, and let me know what you think of this. It didn't really come out that well. Let me play this next one, I'm sorry.
Whispering in the sound.
Try it again, you gotta listen good. Any ideas what it was saying?
Something meant.
Close.
Oh, listening now or?
Come sit down now, won't you?
Oh, okay.
If we had headphones, you'd listen to it, it actually is a
Yeah.
British accent.
And we were in the parlor where Mrs. Chu used to give her teas.
Sounds like a lady that wants to have you sit down and have some tea.
Yeah. Now, this one was taken at Burlington County Prison, I don't remember what it was.
Can you tell us your crime that you figured out that got you here?
right after the investigator says, "Can you tell us what your crime is? What got you in here?" You hear it real faintly.
Say it again.
You hear the investigator say,
Right.
"What got you here?" And then you hear like a whispering right there, and then you hear another loud noise, but it's the whispering in the middle.
Who said it's tiny, it's small?
Mm-hmm.
Who said that?
That's one of us.
No,
Is that?
No,
I thought it
that's
was in
the
between. I
EVP.
thought it was the whisper in there.
that's the EVP.
Let's play that again.
That's the EVP.
But there's a whisper in there too.
Yeah, there is.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's the EVP.
Okay, but there,
Star
yeah.
had said that she thought the lady was trying to say it was a small crime.
Okay.
That was pretty loud.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that's one of our better
That's a
ones.
good clear.
That's what you call Class A.
This one was taken at a restaurant in Exton, Pennsylvania, where they ask a name. Yeah.
My grandfather.
Okay, this one, also in the same place. The notes here say all the females were in a carriage house, but there's a male voice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they're all known. Did you hear
It's
the
right
male voice?
before the
Yeah.
air male voice and then a laugh. It wasn't.
It's right before you hear the word flash.
Yeah.
That actually is all the EVPs I have. Which I'm sorry.
So how many investigations have you been on?
Oh God, we try and do, lately it's been 3 a month. I try and keep it to 2 a month because we all have families.
Yeah.
But lately it's been 3 a month. We even had a few months where it was 4. Lucky I have a very understanding wife.
She's our special guest
Yeah,
investigator.
she's her jacket says special guest investigator.
Anyone familiar with Exton Fraser area, where the Home Depot is?
Mm-hmm.
Remember there's that big stone house or whatever, we had this thing thinking that was either, possessed or someone said it was loaded with coupons, like they said there was someone supposedly living there, and they wouldn't, like coupons, up to the windows.
Wow.
It was rented out.
Like, I mean, because there was this thing, growing up for years, we all said, that something's wrong up with that house.
Yeah.
I think that might be one of the places the more months
No.
that figured it in.
Lockwood.
Right.
Lockwood, I think it's called.
Is it? Yeah.
Yes, like,
I always thought
because I think they cleaned it up, it's like, it's still on like Home Depot by the parking lot.
Have you been to Duffy's Cut?
But I don't think a ghost court.
I have not been to
I don't think
Duffy's
they
Cut.
rented
That's
it.
right.
I know.
I used to live right
I
there.
used to live right there.
Yeah.
It's right
No,
there.
but no,
It's
it's
very
very
nice, but it's on danger because the railroad tracks.
You guys ever investigated
And it's private
penthouse?
houses there.
No, we've not. Jim, you've gone to Penn.
I've been there.
Yeah, he's going on his own there. We've tried actually, a lot of places nowadays, if they want you to come in, you have to pay really high. Penhurst charges, I think for a group, to have one night, it was like $1,500.
Oh my God.
Ghost Hunter Store's doing investigations
Yeah.
to 75.
For 7, yeah, but see, they bring a lot of people
Yeah,
in.
it's like too many.
I was just doing just our
Yeah, it's
group,
way too
and-
much first. You get to have like a $500,000 insurance policy.
Yeah, and you have to have a huge insurance waiver, like, really? I mean, I do this part-time, and then
Right.
pay. We do this for free, by the way.
Yeah, it's fine.
And have I told you we're selling t-shirts? I haven't mentioned it in a while, come on. But, I mean, we've done a lot of, we've done Eastern State Penitentiary, which, believe it or not, was kind of a bust.
Yeah.
I've been there during their actual Halloween tour and saw more things than I did when it was just us in there. We ended up actually playing jokes on each other. Well, I ended up playing jokes on everybody, so.
What about the Army Hospital, the old Army Hospital, Christian College?
Huh?
No?
Where's that? Okay.
The college?
It used to be the Army Hospital.
Oh, okay.
So you don't send me email.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we've
mean,
done Fort
believe me,
Mifflin.
we've done Fort Mifflin, we actually want to go back to Fort Mifflin.
Yeah, they're pretty reasonable if you wanna go and spend the night.
Yeah, they're very nice though. The Lorraine is great at Fort
Yeah.
Mifflin. Laurel Hill Cemetery we've done here.
Rittenhouse
Rittenhouse right.
There's some restaurants down in Chad's Ford. Have you gotten there?
No. Where? See, that's the thing. It's all, you know.
Along Route 1 in Chad's Ford.
There's, somebody had told us about a restaurant down there in,
It's closed.
Claire, no, there's somebody we work with. Goes there all the time.
Congerville.
Did you?
Maybe.
Yeah,
We're gonna be there
Congerville.
Thursday night.
Well, there were several down there, but I know she had sent,
Just like tonight.
you know, we sent like a form letter out explaining who we are and what we do, and
Yeah.
if you want an investigation, please contact us, and we didn't hear from them.
It's where table settings are rearranged
Mhm.
at night and stuff.
I'll tell you what we can do is after this, if you guys have places you want us to look into,
Yeah.
come up to me the other night, I'll write them all down on my
We'd
phone.
love to hear about it.
Okay? It's a lot of this is word of mouth, okay?
We have done, sorry,
It's quite all right.
Dilworth Cannon, which isn't too far from there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're actually doing a thing for them Thursday. So, we've been there, God, like 5 times.
That place burned down. They rebuilt it exactly as it used to be.
Right.
So the ghost must have come back, right?
We've had some interesting experiences.
Yeah, we've had interesting thing happen there.
Yeah.
We
Had chairs moving.
Yeah, chairs moving when we walked out of the room, and we came back and the chairs were totally different.
Was the closet door open too one time? Was that it, or did we debunk that one?
We done it. Yeah, the wine cellar.
Light.
We were pushed, we were poked, hair were pulled.
Light was on,
Yeah.
red light.
You know, we've had things in my house happen. My wife would I would go to bed first, and she would come to bed. And I know she turned the light out because I heard her click the switch, and she said she'd wake up like 3 in the morning and the light was on. So we've had things like that happen. So, you know, we've gone to a lot of places, as I said. We tried to do Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, okay? It took me some time, actually, believe it or not, so I marked to get in here to investigate this place. And I'd like to tell you right now what happened while we were here. So,
I just got to ask about that. I saw that on Pat's thing, that's where one of the not haunted, but had paranormal activities, like on patch.com. Think, Phoenixville Library is
Okay.
top there on the list.
Yeah. Now, as I said when we first started, I have no hard evidence. I do not have any pictures. I do not have any EVPs. Believe me, we were here for 3 times, 4 times.
Twice.
I'm sorry, we were here twice. Want to come back again? And you know, while we're here, one of the last things that happened to us, I'll start backwards and work forward. Okay, you know, on the main floor, they have the bars that would walk through if you're trying to steal a library book, which, you know, that guy in the back probably did. No, not you, the other one, the younger one. And the siren goes off, and, you know, the gates come down, and, you know, the guys come out with the machine guns. So we're upstairs, and it's myself and Sue and Ramey and Ann. And it's real quiet. It's about 11:30 at night. And Mary was here with us, and Kristen?
Yeah.
Christine, not you. And they were down here, actually, in the office. So we're standing there doing EVP, and all of a sudden, the damn bars just lit up, and the alarms went off. And we're like, the four of us looked at each other. I never saw Ramey run so fast in my life. And Ann was like 2 steps behind her, and they looked right down here to get onto the security camera to see what it was. And unfortunately, the cameras were not angled exactly where it was, so we couldn't see if anything moved through there. Before it happened, Sue said she heard something in the stack. Sue said she heard something in the stacks. Ann said she felt something brush by her, and that was when they lit up. So when the two of them ran downstairs, Sue and I started taking pictures, and we're doing an EVP, and we're like, wow, what do you think that was? And like, we're putting our hands there through the thing, nothing's happening. So we're just talking like we're talking to each other now. And she's just nodding, saying, shut up, Frank. The thing lit up again. And we said, okay, now at this point, we went downstairs too, to meet up with those two and Mary. There was nothing on the cameras, because of the way the cameras were. But you couldn't see if any, I mean, obviously if it's a ghost, it's going to be clear, you know, but we couldn't see anything go through there, so we don't know what it was that caused that.
And all the time we were here, that was the only time that ever happened.
Yeah, that was the only time.
10 hours of investigation or whatever.
Yeah, nothing like that ever happened before. While we're upstairs, though, we've heard people talking. We've heard in one of the middle stacks, if you're going up the stairs, stand in the middle, and it's to the right. I've heard people walking behind there. Okay, it's not outside, it's definitely something in there, but couldn't figure out what it was.
That's creepy.
Yes, it's very creepy. And now since Sue's looking at me saying, all right, stop talking. I'm gonna let Sue tell, some of the things that happened to you.
We heard whispering, so we were up in the attic, and we definitely heard, it sounded to me like whispering on the stairs. And we checked with the other group, they were like way off somewhere else. When we were down in the children's library, the first night we were here, was it Mary's daughter had gone upstairs?
Yes.
She wanted to sit by herself up there, so we were all downstairs, and we kept hearing footsteps over and over and over again. So Frank finally went up, and she had been sitting like by the fireplace the whole time.
There's two big
And
chairs.
that went on for about 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah. Now, we didn't hear anything down here in the children's area. It was all upstairs.
So what would you call that though?
Paranormal activity.
Which
Because I can't
which
tell
is
you
a result
exactly.
of, like, what's it a result of? Is it?
Residual, it could be, I don't know.
Oh.
You know what I mean? It's, when I write the report, that's all I'm gonna say is, while we were there, this happened, I have no explanation for what it was, but we heard, this is what we all heard. And it wasn't just myself who heard it.
Right.
We all heard the same thing. We all saw the same thing. We each had our own experience, but everybody else could collaborated. I heard talking while I was up there, and Christine, who works here, heard it too. But we were the only two who heard it at one point.
Could you identify male or female talking?
Female. Female at one point, and another point it was a male. Then later on, the first night, again, we heard the male. And the second time we were here, it was mainly female.
The first director was named Elmira Pennypacker. She died in 1916.
Saw Pennypacker Ave when we were down here.
What?
Yeah.
Pennypacker Ave, I saw that when we were on the way here.
Oh, yeah, it was a big family of Penny. But she was the first director, so some people think it's her.
Okay. Kirk, do you want to talk about anything you had?
Weren't you getting some hits on your REM pod that night, Kirk?
There was, I got a couple REM pod hits, but nothing to really speak about, because when I work with the REM pod, I try to ask yes and no questions. Try to get, whoever to manipulate the REM pod, and yeah, I got a couple hits, but I didn't get anybody, to really manipulate it. Sometimes they get a kick out of just touching it, seeing what it does. The first night I was here to investigate, yeah, I had all the same personal experiences. I heard people behind me talking, but nothing, no hard evidence.
Voice recorder?
Nothing.
A lot of times it doesn't pick up, sometimes it does. Just like the one EVP that Frank played earlier, everybody had their voice recorder on, only one person got the EVP. Sometimes it picks up, sometimes it doesn't.
It just happens that way. There's no explanation for it. And, when that first happened that night, we reached out to a few other groups and they've had the same thing happen. It just, for some reason that night, that person was the conduit. So, basically that's it. I'm sorry. Does anybody have any questions? For any of us?
I'm just curious to talk about like the history of things. So when you do go to places, I mean, how much time do you spend kind of trying to research the history of that area or a particular place or anything on it? How difficult can that be?
It's extremely difficult. We don't have the resources. We're not on TV where we can go into a place and say, hey, I want the background of everything. A lot of it's internet research. Basically, that's really the only way.
But a lot of us don't like to know before we go, because you don't want to have any ideas put in your head.
You don't want to be tainted. You want to go in blind and let everything happen.
Yeah, if we do research, it's usually after.
We do, yeah, like we'll get names, like Frank, like a lot of us have gotten names, and then after we're done our investigation, we talk to either the homeowner or the restaurant or whatever. They'll tell us, like, in our report, we'll have the names that we heard or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, well, there was a John that lived here,
Okay.
and we'll get our information that way, because like Frank said, we don't just, I mean, Rainey has done a lot of research for places for us.
I like that.
She likes she'll research the land and everything, but it's time. We have a tough time with the time.
It is very, it's very time consuming. One of the things we did for Rittenhouse Down, one of the very first time, it's historic Rittenhouse Down in, it's outside of Center City, right off of Kelly Drive. Believe me, if you didn't know it was there, you go right by it. They called us in to investigate the paper mill there, so we did that. And I got a lot of names, and you know, the lady wouldn't tell me anything, so I actually went on the internet and researched it, and I found all these names actually correspond to people in the Rittenhouse family. So, any other questions?
I got a question. Let's say there's a property that has a lot of activity, different groups have gone there, and has there ever been a like drastic change only to find out maybe an object was removed or something? Like you have to mention that people bringing stuff in when they buy antiques, and maybe property say, oh my gosh, I sold that, I gave that candlestick or whatever happened to be to my nephew. And like I said, maybe whatever activity may be left when the candlestick or whatever the artifact was.
Just left the house. We've never come across anything like that. I've heard of it, but I'm sure it does happen. But we've never had that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Come on. You guys are quiet. Really? Yes.
What's it like being a medium?
Well, if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me a question.
It depends on the day of the week too.
Yeah. And the time. It's cool at times it's not cool. At 4 in the morning it's not cool.
When somebody's standing at the end of your bed.
Yeah. That's really not cool at all. That happens more often times than not. It's cool in a way when you get to see old relatives. So that's nice.
What's really cool is when you investigate with Frank, and I like to go to Laurel Hill Cemetery, and we'll walk along, and I'll catch something out of the corner of my eye. I say, Frank, somebody standing? Oh yeah, there's somebody standing. So that way it's more validation for me. I asked a particular question the last time we were there. We always go to this one section, and we stop and we look, and all of a sudden they start coming out for Frank, and I said, well, have you ever walked up on them to see what they would do? Frank said no, but maybe next time we go, you know, we can walk up and see if they just disappear or if they run actually in contact.
Yeah. There's one part in that cemetery where we do private tours for them, and I take people onto the other side, and there's a corner that's kind of like more open than anything else. There's always children playing there. Obviously not live children, living children, but they're always there. Every time we go, they're always there. You have a question?
I was wondering, like, what you do for people if you do find out that they have activity, or do you help them get rid of the activity, or?
It depends on the person. It depends on that person. A lot of people, believe it or not, okay, it's fine. It's not really bothering me. It's kind of cool. It's been with us for years. We're going to let it be. It's not hurting us.
I think a lot of people just want confirmation that they're not imagining it.
Yeah.
That's a lot in this field. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. They want to say, shh, we have ghosts, but we don't want to say anything because our neighbors think we're crazy.
Yeah.
My favorite people come up to me and they find out I do this. You're not going to believe this, but no, trust me, I believe it. I'm the guy that sits in your attic at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. I could be home watching the Saturday night college football game, drinking a few beers.
A lot of times what I'll do for people, I think Raimi mentioned this about stones. If you take an amethyst stone and you put it in the four corners of your house, we'll protect your house a little bit. Okay, help you out. It's a good peace of mind too.
Now, if somebody did have a real serious concern, we have contacts.
We know people.
Spiritual belief systems where we could connect them with someone we don't really.
We did have a gentleman call me a couple of months ago, and he said, I need my house exercised, and they're attaching me, and it just didn't feel right talking to him on the phone. So I reached out to the person who was mentioning, and I gave this guy's information, and he took care of it.
There are groups out there that handle primarily negative hauntings, and that's who Frank's talking about that they reached out to. We don't handle negative hauntings. I've never come across anything negative on a case. Frank has. So that's something I'd like to see. I'll probably be the one that everybody's running out and I'll be like, where you going?
Bring City Basement, Kirk, you're coming with me.
Have you looked at Morris Cemetery here in Phoenixville?
What was the name of it?
Morris.
No. Cemeteries are very hard to get into. Well, okay. Now, okay, wait, legally or illegally?
Illegally.
Okay, legally it's very hard to get into. How's that? Illegally, yeah, I could come around 11 o'clock at night and sneak in there. But if there's a gate up or if there's bushes surrounding it, it's technically considered closed off to the public. And if I was caught in there, I'd be trespassing. Now, if they had a gate that was open and there was no do not enter sign, then I'm fine.
Well, the
But I will look into it.
Historical Society for Halloween is doing a tour of Morris Cemetery. I think it's this Friday night.
Mhm.
I have to check their website.
And where is that?
It's
It's right here. in
Oh,
Detroit.
okay.
But they're doing a tour, it's members only, so if you wanna come, just sign up as a member that night. But they're gonna hit some of the highlights, the famous people buried there,
Cool.
and they'll get you familiar with it, at least, and then you can see whether you can come in.
You remember all this?
Yeah.
Remember?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
What do you think of people like John Edward?
All right, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a lot of problems with people on TV. Ghost hunters, like all the ghost hunter shows.
The Long Island Madam,
Pardon me?
the Long Island Madam.
Yeah. Her.
Madam.
This is where my wife and I differ. Now, if you really pay attention to ghost hunters and ghost travelers and whatever all they're called, we all have these meters. Okay, it's like a standard in the organization. So, but their thing is, my God, look at it, it's moving all over the place. Well, yeah, because you're shaking the damn thing, it's gonna move. Don't worry, I didn't break your toy.
We got 3 more up there.
So that's my problem with people on TV. I don't feel they follow everything. As for mediums, I'm more of a skeptic. I'd like to talk to this person one-on-one. Sure, I get feelings when I'm walking around, but I'm not going to go up to you and tell you things. First off, I don't know you. Second, you might hit me. Or he might hit me. You know? So, my mom, she's like, oh no, John Edwards is the man. He's everything. Okay.
I had a good friend who did have
Reading?
reading with him, and he did tell her something. She wasn't even thinking this person had been shot in New York City and had been on the newspaper thing. But she wasn't thinking about her or anything, and he told her something that really made a lot of sense. That this woman was saying she was sorry that she couldn't meet her in New York on a certain time. And that really, I always liked him. The other people, I know what you mean, but I thought he seemed pretty good, but I don't understand how they do it.
What's the difference between a psychic and a medium?
Well,
Well, a medium channels, right?
Excuse me?
Does a medium do the channeling of?
I've channeled once,
Okay.
but a medium can communicate with the spirit. Okay, psychic is kind of predicting if something is going to
Yeah.
happen. So.
You mentioned the Fox sisters. What do you think of them?
Well, for starting spirituality in the United States, I think it's great. Everything I've read about them, they tried their best. They had a really, really bad childhood, a bad upbringing. So you're not sure if a lot of it was brought on because of their upbringing. Anything else? Wow, she's getting her purse right. She wants to leave. I'm kidding.
I want to rate how good you are.
That's why the lights are on, Ann. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, in the beginning, I said I'd have one question. Now, don't shout it out the answer. You have to raise your hand. What's my last name? Oh, yes, I did. I told you I wasn't going to give a shirt away tonight. It's a very easy question if you think about it.
Stress? Stress?
No. You have to give me a t-shirt for that. But I'll tell you what, to this lovely lady in the back. Yes? Did you ask my wife? Forget it, because I'm looking at radio. So this lady in the back will get a free t-shirt. Please. Yes, yes. See my wife. My last name is Cassie. Cassie. Oh yeah, that's it. But please, buy a t-shirt. If you know anybody who has anything, please take one of our cards, reach out to us if you have questions. My phone number's on the card. I respond to all the emails going to that's on the addresses on there. Please ask us questions, whatever you have. It's not
We're
too
free.
stupid. We are, thank you, Christine. We are free of charge. I don't know if I mentioned, our shirts are not free of charge. But we're free of charge.
And discreet.
Oh, and we are, yes, we are very discreet. We are not gonna pull up to your house in an ambulance with red and blue lights.
Well, we also won't post anything.
Yes, and should we come to your house to investigate and we find anything, we would never post your face or your address on there. It would always be private house, say Phoenix.
We'll
Okay?
have your name.
Yeah, we will not put your name
And
in.
we like fresh baked cookies.
Cookies are good, chocolate chips very nice. Chocolate chips nice. Sandwiches work, you know, we're Mahoney's So, again, on behalf of myself, and the rest of the group, Phoenixville Library, thank you for coming out, everybody. I appreciate it.